easily been all day.
Yeah. I can keep an eye. Would you care whether
It's getting there. I like it. Absolutely. Nothing will shake up the love life. The aphrodisiac. Yeah, I mean, it's just keep going. That's how Tusk was. She was done. You know, there wasn't really much ads in the middle. It was just trigger free, president copyright.
Well, I don't want to tell you the question because you'll get then I know
Are we on time? Do you think? Anything from Jason? No. Not for a while.
I've always thought live entertainment was
she got it.
I had people on saying, oh, my children love this. That's how sucky you are.
Yes, exactly. That's what I was getting live shameless. Yeah, I love that.
Private island.
Yes.
It's really into tech.
I assume most spectators might go to heavy in terms of
coming the other way.
We need a bigger boat. Huh?
Halfway there. I got in there 4 to 2 and this was started at 9. It should be there half past. Triple shit. They cause so much stress. Could it be hotter in here?
Is it?
Should we open the window? Is there a window? Can we open the window?
Just leave London. It's the only place you can't see North Bank.
It's a back on the Eiffel Tower, so much to the side of the giant.
Or the MJ. Yeah, it's the young.
Sebastian's still on now.
Sorry.
Is there any...
I believe not. I think it's the Daily Mail. It's probably on sale today. A bit like, you know, when that's what we did the first time, that, like, that's what they're doing. They're going to get the performers out once a month. I have a feeling the questions won't be about this.
What can we actually say? We can't say it. We can't even attribute guilt to this guy caught on camera. What are you going to
It's all gone very quiet now, actually.
Spectator levels again. Shit. What are we going to
Someone said to me, Sarah Adams, Victorian P, said, it's not Mr. Makerfield, it's Mr. Mistakerfield.
camera ready? Why are they... Can we be hiding from the national media?
Oh, where are we going? Sorry. No. Question.
We're focusing on that.
Yes, they're
Eric, hasn't it?
Yes, yes, you would.
Man who was born through things here has been nicked down. Does anyone remember Mr. Makeup?
Oh yeah.
The wrong generation.
Yeah, no, I don't. I've read about it.
La la la, Mr. Makeup. Does that mean anything?
Oh, I see.
Do you want him to whisper?
Yeah, I didn't know. There's a jam thing. No, is that? Yes.
Richard, when was the last time you picked up something? What's the Godfrey Bloom line about cleaning behind the fridge? Look at this.
A very good morning, everybody, and welcome to Reform's press conference. Reform, cleaning up Britain in so many ways. In a sense, it's a sign of just how broken Britain is. That if you look around our streets, our parks, our countryside, it's a mess. Everybody knows it, everybody feels it. People say when they arrive, whether it's in Dover or Gatwick or Heathrow, they then suddenly drive up our streets and our roads and they cannot believe the state of the United Kingdom. Successive Labour and Conservative governments have utterly failed to address this issue. They just haven't cared. And littering, fly tipping has become the norm. And we only really hear about the huge examples, but actually it's all around us. And we all want to be environmentally friendly. There's nothing friendly about littering, about fly tipping. It is a national embarrassment, it's a national disgrace. And it is not the sign of a healthy nation. It is a sign of a nation that is ill at ease with itself, that has given up caring. And it's frankly, simply unacceptable. But we can reverse this. We can restore a sense of pride in how our streets, our parks and our countryside look and feel. And that's why today we're announcing 3 key areas of change under reform, many of which we will be able to enact within the councils that we control. We'll be imposing substantial additional fines for fly tipping and proper enforcement. We need an annual National Action Day to rekindle civic pride in our communities. And our first one will be on Saturday, the 4th of July. All of our elected officials from our party and indeed other parties should join in and give that sense of pride in our respective communities. And then we need to tackle littering in a way that it's a key part of planning conditions for restaurants, for fast food outlets and the like. There has to be a sense of commitment, community feeling amongst businesses as well as individuals. So first up, getting tough on littering and fly tipping. At the local authority level, we can really get busy on this. We have to take it seriously at the councils with increased fines. And for example, fixed penalty notices for fly tipping, currently capped at £1,000. We need to change this. We need to say, no, that should be £5,000. Potentially, you can go to prison for 5 years, but in reality, no one ever does. There's no sanction, there's no deterrent. We need to change this. People just receive a slap on the wrist or maybe a fine of just a few £100s. A fixed penalty ceiling of £5,000. Vehicle seizure on second offence within 36 months. Seizing someone's vehicle permanently. We think that could have a real difference. And we need a new aggravated offence for commercial, large-scale fly tipping. We need a mandatory minimum fine of £20,000. And again, vehicle forfeiture on conviction. People have to know that no longer is this acceptable. On the other side, we need to look at rewards and incentives for councils who do well with improved performance. And as sort of phase 2 of this, we'll also be carrying out some work to look at how other countries are doing this much better than we are, with their deposit return schemes and other incentives. And that's the reason why they look and feel so much tidier, so much cleaner. So that's a sort of phase 2 piece of work. Particularly with technology, we can do so much better. And also, we need to be willing to use AMPR cameras to spot the regular offenders. That's how we ensure people understand that it is just unacceptable to just throw out litter from your cars, vehicles, trucks, whatever. Sadly, it's become acceptable. Polling even shows it. Up to half the people admit to littering. It is just completely and utterly, and it should be culturally unacceptable. The National Action Day this year, the 4th of July, is a real sort of sense of communities getting together, clearing up the streets, the parks in their local area, being led by elected representatives. We think that is a great thing that we need to do definitely once a year. This year, the 4th of July. That is very important. And then the third thing, on planning. Yeah. We all use, when we're busy, fast food chains. But if you think about it, they do generate a disproportionate amount of litter. A Keep Britain Tidy survey showed that McDonald's packaging, for example, represented just under 30% of all litter. I know they'll get very grumpy with me, these wonderful outlets. Greggs 18%. Delicious, by the way, but nevertheless. KFC 8%. The list goes on. You get the point. Come on, folks. You can all do better. We've all used these outlets and seen bins overflowing with their own packaging. They need more bins, bigger bins, regularly emptied. If they do that, then they can comply with a licence. But actually, I think councils should be prepared to say that if fast food chains and outlets are continually responsible for litter around their premises and beyond, then they've got to think about the consequences, and the consequences could be that they lose their licence to operate. There has to be an incentive, and there has to be a sanction, and there has to be a proper deterrent. So with these things, we think that a real shift can occur, both personally, all of us as individuals, but also corporate responsibility from all of those fast food chains, small, medium and large, that are responsible for so much packaging. If we do this, we can make a real change. And the person who has, of course, been driving this for many, many years, and we're enormously grateful for the work that he's done over those years to try and get parties, groups, communities to believe in cleaning up Britain, is, I believe, the country's expert in this space, John Reid of Clean Up Britain, and I'm going to invite John to come to the lectern to say a few words. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Richard. Yes, good morning, everybody. My name's John Reid. I'm the founder and managing director of Clean Up Britain, and we are the National Anti-Litter and Fly Tipping Campaign. We're a not-for-profit community interest company, and we're also a non-party political campaign. And I'm first going to start by saying, sadly, Britain is suffering from a litter and fly tipping epidemic. It's highly visual, and it's having a corrosive effect on our society. It's self-inflicted, and it needs to end. And it needs significant government intervention, commitment, leadership action. These things have all been lacking for decades in this country, and that's why we see the state the country's in at the moment. But just to say, a few weeks ago, we sent out a tweet, and we asked every single political party to come and work with us. And only one party responded, and that was Reform UK. That's why I'm standing here today, and that's why I'm going to give them huge credit for understanding that this issue really matters to people all over the country. It really does. I know that. I've spoken to many of them, and it really is a matter of concern. And I know Reform UK are actively exploring ways in which, as Richard was outlining, policies that can make a difference to cleaning up our country, but permanently. We look at the numbers, they're incredibly stark. Research last year showed that 77% of people think the country's litter problem has worsened in recent years, and it undoubtedly has. 85% of adults say they hate seeing rubbish, litter, detritus in their communities, and over 70% say it makes them feel sad and angry. But let me be clear, we should all be ashamed about this self-inflicted problem. Not just me, but you as well. It's your country as much as it is mine or anyone else's. We are fortunate, we really are fortunate to live in a stunningly beautiful country. Stunningly beautiful. But at the moment, it looks like a run-down, rancid, hyper-littered dump. And I'm not going to put any words. How do I know that? Well, over the past 3 years, I've been to every single city in Britain, from Inverness to Truro. I've travelled all over the country. I've driven all 50 of the country's motorways. Yes, I'm that sad. And I've taken over 5,000 videos and photos on here while doing so. So I've documented it well. It's a sad picture. And it's not so much a journey of discovery. It's more a journey of despair and depression. Despair at the recklessly selfish, irresponsible way many of our fellow citizens treat our country. And depression, because it is depressing seeing the public realm so polluted and so dishevelled. I know I'm not the only one to feel this way. I have countless people contacting me all the time about this. That's why I know it really matters to people up and down this great country. But is the situation really that bad? The answer is honestly yes. We look back to 2015, the House of Commons Communities and Local Government Select Committee did a big report on this. One of their standout lines was, England is a litter-ridden country compared to most of Europe, North America and Japan. It's got worse since then, I promise you. And even that damning statement underplays the scale of our problem. There's no country in Western Europe that's so consistently littered as Britain. I don't know how many of you have done this, but you get off the Calais ferry at Dover, you drive through Dover, you get on the A2 road up to London. It is, well, I don't know how to describe it. It's a profoundly depressing and actually cringeworthy experience. Litter, abandoned roadside equipment, filthy and corroded litter signs. uncut bushes obscuring signage everywhere, weeds growing all over the public highways, potholes. It's all there. It really is. And it's in stark contrast to France, I promise you. We look like a third world country. France exudes civic pride and cleanliness. Britain exudes neglect and contempt. Now, these are terrible things to say about your own country, I know, but it doesn't make them untrue. And I'm happy to say them because they are true. Virtually every major road in Britain is poorly maintained, and many of them are heavily littered, certainly in comparison to our West European counterparts. Some are worse than others, admittedly. None of them are great, with the possible exception of the M6 toll road, which is a private sector motorway, as I'm sure you know. So this is going to beg the question, who's trashing Britain and who's to blame for this damaging and intractable problem? There's three groups. The first group, and the major perpetrators, are the 20 million plus people in this country who admit to dropping litter. They admit to it. Earlier this year, a YouGov survey found that 49% of adults admitted to littering in the last 12 months. Now, these are astonishing figures and show the scale, in my mind, of the cultural problem we have got in this country. And again, I'm not going to mince my words. I don't think it's an exaggeration to say we have a lot of very selfish, lazy and antisocial people in this country. Clean Up Britain's national campaign is about changing the behaviour of these people. It's the only solution to our problems. And that comes through education, social pressure, or severe punishment. That's the only way we can really meaningfully and lastingly adopt a policy that's going to make a difference, restore civic pride, community care and environmental respect. The second group to blame for Britain's litter problems is the major international corporates, whose brands, sadly, are polluting the country. Give you an idea of the scale of the problem, we reckon there are at least 25 million Red Bull cans that are littered every year in Britain. That's a minimum figure, it's more like 75 million that are just chucked away and lying discarded in a ditch somewhere. There are 700,000 plastic bottles that are littered every single day in Britain. These aren't our figures, that's through a company called Eunomia, who the government uses as their official agency. 2.5 million cigarette butts chucked on the ground daily. McDonald's, Coca-Cola, Mars, KFC, many others like this as well. They're all heavily littered brands. And these companies have done very little so far, I'm afraid, to address the issue. I'm sorry to have to say, but it's classic corporate greenwashing in reality. And that needs to change as well. The final thing I'm going to say, though, is that the British state has got a big part to play here. Section 89 of the 1990 Environmental Act says very, very clearly, all statutory bodies, every council, Network Rail, National Highways, the lot, must ensure their land is kept clear of litter. So what does that mean in reality? I'll tell you what it means in reality. It means that basically every single statutory body is breaking the law every single day in this country. It's futile law ignored by government. However, the biggest single culprit, and I'm going to call them out because they deserve to be called out, is the highly dysfunctional and meaningfully unaccountable quango called National Highways. They are given a massive budget of over £5 billion a year by the Department of Transport to supposedly look after England's motorways. And still the motorways are covered in litter, their signs are often corroded, lettering's peeling off signs, they're damaged, often they're falling apart, and they literally are. Anyone doesn't believe me, I'll happily send you loads of photographs to prove it. I don't know what Heidi Alexander, the Secretary of State for Transport, does all day. But what I do know is that she's not properly managing national highways. I know that. Anyway, I hope you can see that Britain's chronic litter problems run very deep. And we certainly hope that Richard and his colleagues will address these preventable problems if and when Reform UK becomes the next government. And they are preventable. Let's be clear, this is an own goal we're scoring in this country. It's got to stop. Finally, I want to pay tribute to the tens of thousands of selfless and community-spirited people in constituencies all over Britain who go out every single weekend litter picking. And there literally are tens of thousands. They are unsung heroes, led by the likes of the UK litter picking group on Facebook and the A27 clean-up campaign, although there are many others besides. Numerous Wombles groups all over the country, hundreds of thousands of people care about this. And if it wasn't for them, we would literally be living in a litter wasteland. It's that bad. But let me end on this upbeat note. Solving the problems of litter and fly tipping should be issues that unite us all. They really should. As we are all only too well aware, we live in very toxic times. But there should be no disagreement across the political spectrum about cleaning up and properly looking after our naturally beautiful country. What we need is genuine political leadership and a rekindling of widespread civic pride and community respect. This should be our shared national mission that unites and binds us all together. Just to restate, Clean Up Britain will work with all major political parties that show commitment to this cause. We're only interested in results, not rhetoric. Reform UK are already rolling up their sleeves, getting on with it, looking closely at what they can do to clean up their communities. More power to their elbow. That's what we say. Enough from me. I'm going to hand over now to Councillor George Finch, leader of Warwickshire County Council, and also leader of Nuneaton and Bedworth, I believe, George.
Good morning, all, and I just want to say thank you to John. I've been in contact with him for a few months now as the leader of the County Council, and just seeing the work he's been doing over the last few decades is absolutely outstanding. And there's not many people across the country that really care about issues like this. And I think a lot of people see it on a day-to-day basis, but they don't necessarily talk about it because nothing ever gets done. So Reform UK is the only party that is listening to this issue. We're the only party that are dedicated to improving the futures of our communities, and we're the only party that is dedicated and committed to restoring faith back in to our villages and towns across our country. But people are sick to the back teeth of seeing road signs not cleaned, graffiti everywhere, litter all over our green spaces, overgrown trees so you can't even see your road signs. I know it may only be little things, but that is so important to people, because at the end of the day, people are paying millions and millions of pounds in council tax to local authorities year on year, but services across the country are not doing what they should be. Fly tipping, blighting our country lanes and our rural areas. We need to get that fixed. I've had so many people contact me about these issues, but as a council, there is stuff we still can do. We don't have to wait to the next general election. We've already got 2,300 councillors. We can do so much, and there's examples in Lancashire where they're cleaning up road signs, cutting back overgrown trees. In Kent, they're having a conference with fly tipping and litter picking already, and things like in Warwickshire, enacting a civic charter, a civic pride charter for schools. We're going to be bringing all the education leads, like head teachers and chief execs of multi-academy trusts, to bring them in to see what they can do with this issue, because at the end of the day, you cannot just put a sticking plaster on this. This needs cultural change, and it starts with young people. It starts with changing the way they respect their communities. So I've seen so many examples, kids walking through the town centre, dropping litter, but the bin only is over there. It's because they're not taught how to respect their communities. They live amongst it, but as though they live separately in their minds to what is going on in the community. And that does need to change. So it does start with our education. And as county councils are the education authority, there are things we can do with soft power and influence on bringing schools in to the rooms and doing that. Also, our recycling centres, or I call them the tip, but many people don't like to call them that now because it's all political correctness. I don't know.
It's a good old tip.
Yeah, a tip. It's a tip. Yeah, I love it. That's where you put all the bureaucracy. But exactly that. In 2020, many councils up and down the country enacted booking systems. So basically, it encouraged people to start fly tipping because people had to book online. And then it wasn't being enforced because there was no money. So a whole system was just failing. So what we've done on Warwickshire is set up a 6-month trial on scrapping all the bureaucracy and red tape there, so we can see what happens, collating that data and see where it is appropriate to get rid of the booking system, or if it needs enforcing, where it does. And again, people will see an easy alternative. Can I access the tip easier? Or if I can't, I'll just fly tip it down some country lane. And that's what people do because it's easier for them. But we need to stop that. So councils should step up and say what's best for the taxpayer, not just for them, but for the people that pay their rates year on year. In our highways maintenance contract, we've just renegotiated that, but we've put emphasis on cleaning our road signs, cutting back hedges, using community payback gangs. So they're basically the probation services and offenders, not just walking around going, oh, a road sign dirty there. They're actually cleaning them. They're actually cutting back hedges. They're actually doing it. And they have, caused offence to the community by now being in prison services and so on. But they're going to give back to their communities. So I think that's exactly what we should be doing. Having people that have just ruined their communities, committed crimes, should be saying, no, actually, we should be giving back to our communities. And that's what we're going to be enhancing across Warwickshire. But I don't know, Richard, if you've heard, I've got a new job. Another job. I'm now in charge of the Neaton and Bedworth Borough Council as of May. We become the largest party back in May. It's amazing, isn't it?
We get told off if we have 2 jobs.
I know. The press haven't picked up on that. But in the Neaton and Bedworth, we have many litter picking groups, many selfless people that are going out in the community and doing their own thing. But why don't we bring them all together? Why don't we collate how many litter picking groups are across the borough and make them work together so their effective force is being seen throughout the community, not just doing little bits here and there. We can create our own team going out with the volunteers and again recognising the work they do. Because I know people think, oh well, it's only little things, it's only a small few group of people that are cleaning out our streets and our parks. But that's so important. So that's why councils have to recognise it. It's simple, bringing these people in and actually thanking them for the work they do. Because if the council did it, I guarantee it costs a lot more. Creating that data, that borough-wide database is so important. So Clean Up Britain is a realignment of how we address our dwindling civic pride. We're starting by setting good examples in schools and making sure those children can go back to their homes and say, no, we should be doing more as a family. We should be working on this as a community. Because we don't just want people to think, well, this is my own castle, I want to look after that. We have to work as a community, and that's why, again, reform's on it with these slogans, family, community, country. It just makes sense. Wow. I can't believe it. We're speaking the people's language day on day, and we are going to inspire that. Through our reform-controlled councils, we will treat every community as it's their own home. We refuse to allow our cherished communities to decay any further. So, as John said, let's clean up Britain. Thank you.
Thank you, George, and thank you, John. And you can sense, everybody, the passion that we have for cleaning up Britain. And also thanks to the hundreds of thousands of volunteers that John quite rightly referred to. We need to grow that and encourage that. And the idea of putting bureaucracy in the bin or in the tip is something that we're at Reform, we love that. That's very much where we're at. Now, I'm going to take some questions, and then George and I, we're going to go. There is a new, beautifully liveried refuse truck outside, and Trucker Tice and Trucker Finch are going into, we're going to be going around Parliament Square. Who knows? We might come across Steve Bray. Should we put him in the bin? Anyway, so some questions. GB News, Olivia Utley.
Suella Braverman was the Conservatives' Home Secretary when this suspect in Belfast was granted leave to remain in the UK, and Robert Jenrick was an immigration minister. Why would voters trust these politicians again with our immigration policy?
Because they had the courage to fight for what they believed in, and they had the courage ultimately to stand up. As you know, Suella was sacked for her courage, for trying to do the right thing, for trying to leave the ECHR, and for trying to properly stop the boats. And then shortly afterwards, Robert Jenrick resigned. So they actually showed themselves to be politicians of conviction, of courage, and it was the failures of the weak, soggy Conservative Party who allowed this to happen. They're responsible for this crisis emerging, and this has been continued by this current Labour Party. Thank you, Olivia. BBC, Alex Forsyth.
Hello, thanks very much, Mr. Tice. What is your reaction to the violence that we saw on the streets of Belfast last night? Do you condemn it? And what is your message to anybody who might be considering taking to the streets later today?
Of course, we always condemn any violence, violent protest or whatever. It's completely unacceptable, and along with all politicians of all different stripes. Lawful protest is, of course, something that is a vital part of a democracy, but everybody has to understand that there is a huge difference between expressing one's concern for what is going on lawfully, peacefully, respectfully, and violence, criminal activities, the fires we saw last night, damage to public property, totally and utterly unacceptable. It's the same as always, which is that, and I said in the chamber yesterday to the Secretary of State, we would urge calm, we would urge people to recognise that the police have got to do their work in Northern Ireland, and those who want to express their concern, their anxiety, their frustration, do that peacefully, lawfully, but that cannot cross the line into any form of violence or damage. It's not who we are, it's not what we do, it's not the United Kingdom. Thank you, Alex. Sky News, Rob Powell.
Thank you, Rob Powell, Sky News. On the topic of the day, given your call for companies to do more to tackle littering, would you be in favour of taking inspiration from the continent and bringing in more deposit return schemes? And then on Belfast as well, we know that the suspect is a Sudanese asylum seeker. There's been a civil war going for several years in Sudan, 150,000 plus dead, millions living in famine. Does your policy of banning visas for anyone coming from Sudan, can I clarify, does that mean no Sudanese asylum seekers coming into the UK? Without wishing to minimise the absolutely horrendous attack that took place in Belfast, is a ban of that sort proportionate, given by any measure what's going on in Sudan is one of the world's worst conflicts?
So, thank you, Rob. On the DRS scheme, there is a DRS scheme supposedly coming in to the UK back end of 27. Many other European countries have DRS schemes. And as I touched on earlier, we need to look in greater detail at other forms of incentives and ways to motivate people actually to pick up litter, to collect litter, to take it to recycling centres and the like. I think we can do much, much better. We've just got to be bolder and braver on some of this stuff, and we just cannot accept the decline in the state of the look and feel of the UK. And when John touched earlier, we love the French, and we love beating them at all forms of sport, but to lose to them on litter is just unacceptable. And we can do better. So, with regard to the horrific attack on Monday evening, look, we're very clear. We have to detain and deport anybody who comes into the United Kingdom illegally. And if the previous Conservative government had done that, we wouldn't be where we are. If this government had done that, we wouldn't be where we are. We are in a terrible state. The frustration of tens of millions of people is palpable. And what I would say with regard to the visa in Sudan is, yes, it's absolute. And we think it is proportionate. Our job as politicians in the United Kingdom is to keep our own citizens safe. Women, girls, boys, men. And we have to be courageous and say, enough's enough. We're done with this. It's unacceptable. And I think our approach is why we're leading in over 300 of the last national polls, because people recognise that we mean it when we say it. And that is what the people want. When I was campaigning, knocking on doors during the local election campaign, it was crystal clear. The issue of the crisis of the small boats crisis, people coming here, breaking the law, is the number one issue. And this government is doing nothing to stop it. Thank you very much. ITV News, Romilly Weeks.
Thank you, Mr. Tice. Why is Nigel Farage still refusing to face proper scrutiny over the £5 million given to him by Christopher Harben? And is this the kind of transparency we can expect from Reform if you do get into government? And can you clarify specifically whether Nigel Farage or any other members of the party accepted other significant donations that have not been declared?
So there's no one more transparent who does more press conferences, frankly, than us at Reform. I mean, here we are today. We take all questions. And I think actually Nigel has given a number of interviews. He's been very clear. He wasn't in politics when that gift was made. He believes the advice has been absolutely clear that it's within the rules. Obviously, we've got the Parliamentary Standards Commissioner looking at it. They'll form their own judgment in due course. But isn't it a sense of actually how Reform is growing? We do press conferences and the like, and it's part of actually showing that Reform has talent across the whole board. That, you know, we're doing these press conferences, whether it's me, whether it's Zia, whether it's whoever, and we're not afraid of any scrutiny. But we do think also that it should be fair scrutiny, and you know, that's where we're at. So, not afraid of anything. There was a second part to your question. Sorry, Romney. Was there a second part to your question?
Yes, it was whether you can clarify whether there have been any other significant donations.
None that I'm aware of. No. The answer is to that. None that any of us are aware of. So, thank you. Channel 4, Paul McNamara.
Thank you, Mr. Tice. You've been asked whether or not you condemn the violence that we saw in Northern Ireland overnight, perhaps in part because of comments Nigel Farage made last week in relation to the Henry
Nonsense.
Noble.
Absolutely ridiculous. Paul, that is outrageous. You know it is. End of story.
I'm just asking.
Well, and I've just answered. Thank you very much.
Does
Paul.
it concern
That is
you?
outrageous. Paul, you've asked your question, and I've answered it.
Sorry,
That's
I actually didn't ask a question.
Jonathan
there.
Walker, the Express.
The question is, does it concern you
Jonathan
that you have
Walker,
to be
the
asked?
Express. That's a revolting accusation to make, and you should be ashamed of yourself. Jonathan Walker of the Express.
Thank you. Given what we know or think we know about the route that the suspects in the Belfast case used to come into the UK, if we want to control our borders, do we need as a country to look at border controls between Ireland and Northern Ireland?
Well, obviously we've had the common travel area for over 100 years, and what's in a sense the failing here was why on earth the Home Office didn't return this individual who crossed that border. That's what should have happened, but for some reason they decided to grant him the right to remain. We think on a 5-year visa, and that just seems inexplicable. Does that require the whole border to be re-looked at? No. Just got to apply the existing rules properly. That's the problem. The Daily Tea, Camilla Tominey.
You're vowing to clean up Britain. Up in Durham, the Reform-led county council has recently rolled back spending on street cleaning in order to achieve £3.4 million in departmental savings. That includes reductions in full-time litter pickers. And also, while we're on the subject, are you giving us a cast-iron guarantee here that every fag Nigel Farage smokes and puts out, he picks up and puts in the bin, Richard Tice?
I'm quite sure that Nigel is most diligent in ensuring that his cigarette ends, that they are well smoked and then put in the appropriate place. With regard to Durham, the whole point of this campaign is that it's not just the councils, Camilla, it's all of us. We all have an individual responsibility. We all have a corporate responsibility in the various businesses to do what we can. So it actually starts at the very grassroots. It's not the council that does the littering. It's the people. And so we've got to transform that sense of civic understanding of what is acceptable and not acceptable in our communities and in the country that we live in. And if we focus on that, then actually, in a sense, councils should have to spend much, much less than what they currently spend. Because otherwise, if you just accept it's always someone else's responsibility, guess what happens? The problem gets worse and worse and worse, and no one cares. Thank you. The Spectator, James Heal.
Good morning, Richard. Given you are the party's business spokesman and given your entreaties this week to the Labour movement, would a Reform UK government strengthen or weaken trade union laws?
Trade union laws all the time. I think, look, we want to... I've already started a number of very useful discussions with various union representatives. It's actually about working together, finding out where there's common ground, where there are genuine concerns. I had a very interesting meeting just last Friday with some senior representatives from such a union. I think a common sense approach, getting around a table, talking, understanding where the issues are, whether it's particularly around, for example, pensions, specific issues around some of those points, the need to increase the income tax threshold, that being the fastest way to put more money in people's pocket. All of that is something that we've started discussions and look forward to continuing. The Telegraph, Amy Gibbons.
Thank you. You're talking a lot about your plans for government, but it emerged yesterday that 1 in 5 people who backed Reform UK at the last general election would now vote for Restore Britain. So can I ask what your message is to those voters, and do you accept that Restore are a threat to your campaign for number 10?
Look, we're not afraid of any competition. We're leading in 300-plus national polls. We're doing brilliantly. But, you know, in a sense, we are a disruptor, and our view is that we've got the best policies, the best people, and it's up to other parties to see if they can challenge us. The only polls that really matter are the ones at the ballot box. And all the evidence is, when people go to the ballot box, guess what? They're voting Reform in colossal numbers, which is why at the May the 7th elections, we swept the board with an extra, whatever it was, 1,400 plus councillors. So always progress to do, not afraid of competition, but we think we've got all the answers. Thank you very much, Amy. LBC, Natasha Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Tice. Can I just follow up on the Northern Ireland question? Do you think that there needs to be more checks at the border potentially in Northern Ireland, or would you support potentially going even further, looking at a potential hard border to stop clearly what might be a loophole from being exploited here? And secondly, we are expecting the Prime Minister to reveal his defence plans shortly. Would you support any further increases on tax to pay for defence? Thank you.
So with regard to the border between the Republic and Northern Ireland, I come back to my earlier point. There's a common travel area. You just need to enforce the existing rules properly. It's actually worked, by and large, very, very well. If the Home Office had enforced the rules properly, we wouldn't be in this situation. And so where some people see this as a backdoor, I think under the existing processes and rules and procedures, the appropriate checks should be in place. With regard to the Defence Investment Plan, well, it does look as though it is going to emerge, finally. It doesn't need extra taxes in order to fund it. You just got to stop wasting money elsewhere. So many areas that we see, whether it's net stupid zero, whether it's something I've been banging on about for 2 years, not doing quantitative tightening, that we learnt yesterday from the Telegraph. The estimated cost of QT, active quantitative tightening, £36 billion in recent years. I was the first politician to start talking about this 2 years ago. We shouldn't be paying voluntary interest on QE, tens of billions every year. There's no shortage of money, right? Currently, it's the way that it's being wasted. At the council level, at the national level, it's infuriating. David Lynch, PA.
Thanks very much, Mr. Tice. Yeah, David Lynch at PA. Just wanted to ask another question about Reform's invite to the unions to affiliate. You've previously expressed admiration for the economic policies of Margaret Thatcher. Do you think she was right to take on the mining union in the 80s in a battle which was largely about breaking union power?
That was 40-odd years ago. We are where we are now. What we want is a sensible working relationship with trade union members, trade union leaders, it's a very important part of a democracy. And I think that there are issues that need to be discussed and debated. It's about getting the balance right and having a sort of a fair set of rules and laws for everything around trade unions, votes and the like. And look, at the end of the day, we want to run the country. We want to run it better than anybody else. And that means working with trade unions, with all interested parties in doing that. And isn't it interesting that the majority of union members in the two biggest trade unions donating to the Labour Party, GMB and Unite, majority of their members are voting reform. So they're voting with their feet, and I think I've got this right, that that Nigel Farage is a more popular leader than Sir Keir Starmer amongst the broader union movement. So I think people can see there's a direction of travel. We're the party of the workers, we're the party of Alarm Clock Britain, and one of the key reasons why those union members are supporting reform is because they realise that we should be drilling our oil and gas treasure in the North Sea, and cannot understand why that's not being done, cannot understand why their jobs are being put at risk in and around refineries, around steel plants, around other significant industries, because of the cost of energy and because of this government's refusal to have a greater supply of North Sea oil and gas. I think last but not least, unless someone's crept in and not told us, Politico, Noah Keat.
Thank you very much. Yesterday evening, one of your MPs, Danny Kruger, voted against making the mayoral elections a more proportional electoral system. So could you confirm, does Reform UK still support electoral reform at both local and general elections?
The thing about electoral reform is it's got to be done properly when circumstances are right. The main reform that we have been talking about is dealing with the postal voting system, which is subject to significant abuse. You've heard us all talk about the issues around family voting, where the existing rules need to be properly enforced. But we do have an issue in the United Kingdom now, which is across large parts of the UK, we have got sectarian politics coming into our democracy. And it's a new place, it's a difficult place for us to be. So, we're very thoughtful about all of this, but our key focus at the moment is postal vote reform, family voting, ensuring that is done fairly, properly and freely. Did I miss anybody? I've gone through my list. Who have I missed? Could you say who you are? Yeah, see, we like to be full, open and transparent.
Yeah. Rob, that's funny enough, that's a question. Rob Hutton from The Critic. I'd like to ask about the massive bribe paid to Reform's leader in Wales. How is taking a huge payment, huge secret payment, and then advocating for Russia different from taking a huge secret payment and then advocating for crypto?
You're talking about one individual who committed an offence and has been convicted.
So it's
a number
the
of
conviction
years.
is
well, look, he was found guilty. That's that. That's got nothing to do with the issues around crypto, which is part of a modern society, and many people. Have you any idea how many young people have crypto wallets within them? How important this could become within our economy and the economies around the world. The idea that you should just refuse to talk about it, as many MPs want to, the idea that you should sort of try and ban the whole concept is absurd. We should welcome new technologies. We should welcome them being properly, sensibly and smartly regulated. And in a sense, the City of London has always, for hundreds of years, been a great innovator of finance. So surely we should, you talk about transparency, surely much better to have a open, innovative and transparent crypto hub in the City of London, in the United Kingdom, generating revenues, generating jobs, than try and sort of banish it offshore and pretend it doesn't happen.
Wouldn't it be better not to have taken a massive cash gift from a crypto bro, though, if that's your position?
Look, our position is very clear, and Nigel has been very clear. Nigel decided not to do any business with Elon Musk because Nigel's not for sale. I'm not for sale. None of us are for sale. And in a sense, that's the joy of these questions. We reiterate it, we reinforce it, and that's the position. Thank you, Rob. There was another hand I saw right at the back. Yes.
Hello, it's Rowena Mason from The Guardian. Just on the same question of transparency, you say the party is up for scrutiny, but why is it that Nigel Farage himself hasn't done a press conference for the last 50 days since news of this gift?
Are you counting? That's amazing. Have you got nothing better to do?
Previously, he was doing press conferences almost every week, and we've had
Yeah, and what happened was actually you got bored of them, and so you started not to attend. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. But in all seriousness, it's part of this whole point about proving that we are a growing team with people across a range of different briefs, and Nigel is absolutely determined that this idea that we're just a one-man band is nonsense. We've got a range of expertise, a range of different people, and that's why you'll see ongoing press conferences which are led by different people, whether it's Zia, whether it's Rob, whether it's myself, whether it's Lee, whoever. All right? I think one thing you can say over the last 30 years is that Nigel Farage is not scared. Sorry, I missed. Hi. Who? Are you missing him? That's very touching. I'm sure he'll be thrilled. So, look, with regard to electronic communications, we're all deeply concerned, frankly, about electronic communications, and we're not going to do a running commentary, frankly, on who we report what to where, for obvious reasons, but it is an issue. It's an issue for, I think, all senior politicians, all senior figures, whether it's Chinese hacking and infiltration that we're seeing. We just heard today, I think it was reported, that Chinese infiltration of a SIM card into a car part inserted into one of the previous Prime Minister's car. So these are things we have to be aware of, whether it's Chinese, Russian, or who else. So look, with regard... No, look, as I say, the risk here is enormous to all of us, whether it's Nigel, whether it's me, whether it's any senior politician from any other party. We deal with it with the respective authorities. We get stuff looked at. But as I say, I don't think the right thing to do is to give a running commentary on it. That actually will probably just help our enemies. So that's that. With regard to your second question, look, at the end of the day, we're saying to people, you've got to trust us. Have I checked the bank accounts of every single member of the whole of 200 and something thousand Reform members? Don't be daft. We're working incredibly hard. We're confident in what we're doing, and at all times, our clear view is we're complying with the rules. Thank you very much. Anyone else? Lovely. Thank you so much indeed. We're done here. We're going to have a little trip outside. Anybody who wants to come and enjoy taking a photo of that is very welcome. Otherwise, thank you for your attention.